American rapper Albert Johnson, better known by his stage name Prodigy, was born on November 2nd, 1974, in Hempstead, New York. His greatest professional successes were accomplished as one half of the hip-hop duo Mobb Deep. Prodigy's pursuit of entertainment stardom is no surprise, considering the fact that he comes from a family lineage of musicians and singers. His father was a member of the 50s doo-wop group The Chanters, while his mother was a member of the 60s girl group The Crystals. Prodigy met his future partner in music, the Queensbridge-raised Kiwan Muchita, better known as Havoc, in high school when they were both attending the High School of Art and Design in Manhattan. Prior to the duo making things official, a teenage Prodigy under the alias The Golden Child had already secured a demo deal with Jive Records and landed an uncredited guest appearance on the Boys in the Hood soundtrack for his contribution to the song Too Young by R&B group High Five. After Prodigy and Havoc became good friends and realized combining their talents could lead to something special, Prodigy walked away from his solo deal with Jive and decided they should make a go of things together. They began hustling demos outside the offices of various record labels in the area. They were pretty much ignored by everyone except Q-Tip. They spotted the rapper coming out of a building one day, and he was willing to listen to what they had to offer. Q-Tip liked what he heard and decided to bring them into the Def Jam office to be introduced to everyone. Numerous appearances at industry parties and talent shows got people to know who they were and grow their popularity. The next move for the duo as the newly formed Poetical Prophets was their appearance in Source Magazine's column Unsigned Hype. As the name suggests, it served as the go-to place for new rappers without a record deal to get some shine. It was well known in the industry that if you got on that list, a deal was pretty much guaranteed to follow, and that's exactly what happened. Poetical Prophets inked a deal with 4th and Broadway Records, a subsidiary of Island Records. They weren't the only label, though, that showed interest. Another up-and-coming music mogul by the name of Sean Puff Daddy Combs was also interested in signing them. I thought I told you that we won't stop. In fact, he was the one that suggested that they change their name. Prodigy and Havoc decided to go with the money, thus ending up at 4th and Broadway. However, they did take Puffy's advice about the name change, and Poetical Prophets became Mobb Deep. In 1993, Mobb Deep released their debut album titled Juvenile Hell. It didn't do well, and as a result, coupled with the fact that their label was already on the decline, the duo soon found themselves without a home. 2 years later, though, they'd be back with the release of The Infamous on Loud Records. It features the smash Shook Ones Part 2. Scared to death and scared to look, they shook, 'cause ain't no such things as halfway crooks. 1995 would also be the year for some major feuds to begin between the duo, to a greater degree Prodigy specifically, and their peers in the industry. Prodigy ruffled some feathers on the track The Infamous Prelude, included on their second album, when he took shots at rappers who talked about, quote, how much weed you smoke, and, quote, space. Def Squad member Keith Murray took particular offense to those lyrics, since he was the one who did just that. Things were apparently temporarily squashed when they later met at a video shoot, but got fired up again when Prodigy said more of the same in his appearance on LL Cool J's I Shot Ya remix, which also featured Keith. Keith then saw Prodigy outside of a New York nightclub one evening and put the paws on him as he chased him down the street. Snoop Dogg and the West Coast group The Dog Pound then released the track New York, New York that September. The music video, shot in the city, showed the kicking down of buildings, which many New York artists, Prodigy included, found incredibly disrespectful. They fired back a rebuttal with the song LALA by Capone and Noriega featuring Tragedy Gaddafi and Mobb Deep. The New York, New York video would actually trigger another major beef involving Prodigy. This time it would involve Jay-Z and his peculiar decision, as far as Prodigy was concerned, to reference what went on in that video on his 1998 song, Money Cash Hoes. It didn't make any sense to Prodigy, since he considered the beef between him, Snoop, and the Dog Pound none of Jay's business. And it also annoyed him that he made the statement 3 years after the fact. Prodigy also continued to get under the West Coast crew's skin after his appearance on the LL Cool J I Shot Ya remix. Tupac Shakur apparently believed the song to be a direct diss, referring to his robbery and shooting at Quad Recording Studios in Manhattan. Several factors did allude to that very incident, namely the song's title, which many assumed was connected to the Notorious B.I.G.'s Who Shot Ya?, certain lyrics, and the timing of its release. The track would also be the first time Prodigy would refer to the secret society known as the Illuminati. While gearing up to begin work on their next project, Mobb Deep found themselves on the receiving end of some major vitriol from Tupac. In the outro of his song Hit 'Em Up, he dissed the duo as well as other artists. Mobb Deep responded with Drop a Gem on him, just a couple of weeks before Tupac's murder. At the end of 1996, Mobb Deep released their third studio album, Hell on Earth. Prodigy took the opportunity to recall the altercation he'd had with Keith Murray in the song In the Long Run. Keith responded with the song Call My Name on his album that dropped just 1 week later. They would continue to go back and forth for many years, sharing disses on numerous songs. Their next release, 1999's Murda Music, unfortunately ended up getting heavily bootlegged and resulted in the duo having to go back into the studio to record some new tracks. It would still end up being the duo's most commercially successful album to date and featured the hit Quiet Storm. Also at this time, the duo would start work on an urban drama movie that would carry the same name as their 1999 album. The following year, Prodigy released his debut solo album, titled HNIC. In the midst of doing his solo thing, he also continued to work on Mobb Deep projects. Their next effort, Infamy, dropped at the end of 2001. At the same time, after years of subliminal back-and-forth jabs, Jay-Z debuted his Mobb Deep diss on the track Takeover, live at Summer Jam, and included the now infamous picture of a young Prodigy at his grandmother's dance studio in full Michael Jackson attire. Mobb Deep responded with the tracks Burn featuring Vita and Crawlin'. Things ultimately calmed down between the two, including handshakes at Puffy's restaurant Justin's after they both found themselves there on the same night. An unusual beef between Prodigy and Nas also boiled over around this time. Prodigy and Nas had previously been friends until some of Nas's people got in his ear, feeling Prodigy was overstepping his bounds by representing Queensbridge when he wasn't from that part of the city originally. The duo carried on with America's Nightmare in 2004, which sold poorly and led to the group's departure from the label. After they cut a new deal with 50 Cent's G-Unit Records, they dropped Blood Money in 2006. Even while being on the grind in the studio, Prodigy still found time to get himself into trouble outside the studio. In November 2003, he was arrested in Cohoes, New York, and charged with third-degree criminal possession of a weapon and unlawful possession of marijuana. 3 years later, Prodigy was arrested in the city once again and charged with illegal possession of a firearm found in his car during a traffic stop. After conducting what he says was an illegal search of the vehicle, a six-figure dollar amount customized bulletproof SUV, police recovered a handgun. A year later, he was sentenced to serve 3.5 years in prison for illegal possession of a firearm. During the ordeal, Prodigy would speak candidly about his numerous years of experience being profiled by New York City police by a group he called the Hip Hop Squad, simply because of the type of music they produced and all the money they were making from it. Prodigy apparently wasn't the only one they had their eye on. He claimed that Nas, Jay-Z, Wu-Tang, the Notorious B.I.G., among others, were also on their radar. Another shocking detail he revealed was that after his arrest, there was tremendous pressure put on him by law enforcement to get him to help them take down one person in particular by, at their suggestion, planting guns and drugs in the person's car. If he agreed, which he didn't, he was told that he could go free. The person that the cops were so thirsty to lock up was 50 Cent. Just before Prodigy began his sentence, he would be involved in more rapper rivalry. In September 2007, after an impromptu performance by Saigon during a Mobb Deep show, words were exchanged between him and Prodigy. Things quickly escalated into an argument, which resulted with Saigon punching Prodigy in the face. Prodigy had previously made a comment about not liking Saigon in an interview. However, the craziest part of the whole thing was that Saigon's issue with Prodigy had much more to do with Prodigy's issue with True Life, as Saigon and True Life were like brothers, and he wanted to have his back. Nuyorican rapper True Life had paid Prodigy a healthy sum of money to do a record with him. Prodigy did just that, but then went and spit the same verse on another project that was then released, effectively preventing True Life from releasing the one they'd already done together. After repeatedly trying to get in touch with Prodigy so they could figure something else out, True Life essentially got ghosted by him. Their fallout was even documented in the 2003 film Beef about the history of hip-hop feuds. Even while behind bars, Prodigy still kept his name in the streets doing collaborations with the likes of Un Pacino, Big Twins, and The Alchemist. His follow-up solo album came in 2008 titled HNIC Part 2. Prodigy was released from prison on March 7, 2011, after serving 3 years. That same year, he released his autobiography, My Infamous Life, the autobiography of Mobb Deep's Prodigy. He gets very personal in the book and speaks fondly about being married to a woman named Kiki, with whom he has 2 children. He was so in love with her that he turned down the chance to hook up with Mary J. Blige, who attempted to pursue him. The following year, Prodigy dropped 2 albums within that 12-month period. HNIC Part 3 in the summer, and the Bumpy Johnson album in the fall. One of the reasons he was able to pull off that feat could be attributed to him having more time on his hands since Mobb Deep was no more. In July of that year, a series of derogatory comments about Prodigy popped up on Havoc's Twitter account, including accusing Prodigy of engaging in homosexual relationships in prison. At first, Havoc claimed that his account had been hacked. However, he later confirmed that he did, in fact, write the tweets. He also admitted he was angry at the time and that it was the wrong thing to do. Yet later, he released a diss track aimed at Prodigy called Separated, Real from the Fake. Prodigy didn't respond to the song, choosing instead to publicly state that Mobb Deep would eventually reconcile. In the early part of 2013, the duo announced that they indeed had reconciled and were going on tour. Havoc would reveal to Vlad TV years later that they decided to reconnect because they knew they would be more successful together than apart. In April 2014, Mobb Deep released the infamous Mobb Deep, their 8th studio album. Prodigy's 5th and final album, Hegelian Dialectic, The Book of Revelation, dropped in January 2017. The album was intended to be the first in a series of 3 albums he planned to release over the course of several months, but that was not meant to be. 5 months later, on June 20th, 2017, Prodigy passed away in hospital in Las Vegas, Nevada. He was 42 years old. He'd been hospitalized for complications related to his sickle cell anemia that had flared up after a show they had just done. He was diagnosed with the SS type of the disease at just 3 months of age and dealt with the excruciating pain the disorder brings his entire life. A couple of days after Prodigy's passing, a mural dedicated to him was painted in Queensbridge. Unfortunately, vandals defaced it with paint. It was cleaned off, but after it happened again, the mural was eventually taken down. Reports claim Prodigy was found unresponsive by hospital staff and that he died from accidentally choking on an egg. The following year, his family and estate filed a wrongful death lawsuit, alleging that the hospital breached their duty of care for Prodigy by, quote, failing to maintain a working IV access and by, quote, failing to continuously monitor oxygen levels as ordered by physicians in the hospital, and that those failures led to his death. Many members of the hip-hop community shared their shocked reactions to Prodigy's untimely death by posting photos, thoughts, and condolences of the late MC to his family on social media. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and comment. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you won't miss any future videos. See you next time!